as it stands right now, there is only one hitter in the Pirates organization of their prospects that has B potential, and that is 20-year-old Termar Johnson at second base. I'm hoping to add to that total in the upcoming draft, but while it stands right now, that makes him, in my mind, our most important prospect in the farm system. And as you saw, he is currently on a hot streak. Thanks to the addition here for MLB the Show 25, we can now see a player's recent games, including his last 10 outings, where he has hit for a 500 average over his last 10 games and an OPS over 1350. And he's coming off a game where he was 3 for 3 with 3 RBI and 2 walks. He is playing really, really good baseball right now, and I want to watch this guy play. So here we have it. Termar Johnson. Overall, he's at 1,000 OPS so far. Still very early in the season, but we've got a man on both first and second. A chance for him to drive in another run here. Let's see what he can do. This one on the 0-1 pitch is going to be hauled in short left infield. Starting this game 0 for 1. Now, if you are new to the channel, I like to switch things up from time to time, going between kind of more team-centric episodes where we'll watch maybe a full game, or maybe we'll hop into some custom game entries and watch a handful of kind of end games. But I also like to hop down into the farm system a decent bit, especially once we get our farm system to a point where it is relatively full of promising young talents. And I also like to do more kind of player lock light style of episodes here as we get Termar Johnson with his second out, 0 for 2 today so far, both to left field. And, you know, it could be somebody's on a hot streak like we are here with Termar Johnson here. Maybe we could hop into somebody trying to break a cold streak, an important debut, etc., etc. There are a lot of reasons to hop in and watch our prospects play, and also maybe some player-focused content on the MLB level as well. I think in a game where your seasons are over 100 games long, well over 100, it is important to mix up the content between episodes. And one of my goals here on the channel is to always have something worth watching every single episode. I don't want to make an episode for the sake of making an episode. Been a pretty rough start here to this game. Just 0 for 3 so far, and with his team down 2-4. Let's see if Termar Johnson can get some sort of offense going here. He's got a 9-game hit streak on the line here against Dylan Coleman. Can Termar Johnson stay hot? That one fouled out of bounds here, so he's behind 0-2. He's been behind the count often here in this game. Staying alive, though, with these foul balls. You like to see that. Anything that's kind of borderline, if you could just keep the at-bat alive. This one's high in the zone. He's gotten decent contact a couple times. He just hasn't been able to find the gaps. Well, that first game didn't go so well. Hitless. So let's see how we can do here now in front of a crowd that's cheering for us. Just like last game, he's up with a runner on both first and second base. Still hitting 346 on the year. Ratings do fluctuate a decent bit from game to game just because of how early we are here in the season. Termar, you know, he's a pretty short guy. I think he's like 5'7" or 5'8" here in the game. But he still has some decent power upside on him. Here he gets a curveball, and oh no. We were hoping to tune in to Termar on a hot streak, but things are not looking great for him right now. 4-6-3 double play to start this game. Rough. All right. Another RBI opportunity here. If we get another hit this game, I think we're going to have to get out of these Termar Johnson player locks because we don't want to be the reason he goes from a hot streak right into a cold one. Now, I'm still working on my sliders here, and offense is always a little bit, I feel like, under... It's always a little bit lower than what it should be in the minors. I feel like even when we had a pretty offensive-friendly slider set in the Rockies series, you'd get some pretty low-scoring minors games. Now, I mean, this one's 6-1. Our opponent isn't having any problems scoring right now, but a lot of that is, of course, in simulation. There's a different story when you're in the sim versus when you're actually watching, because I don't believe the sliders apply when you are just simming in kind of that quick sim menu. Done a nice job in this AB to bring it to full. 3-2 pitch is high in the zone, and he got underneath it. Another fly ball for Termar Johnson. All right, let's get a hit on the board for the episode, shall we? 0 for 6 so far since we've tuned in. It's about time we get something going. He has a runner on first. So if he hits a particularly good one, could be an RBI opportunity. Of course, there's always an RBI opportunity when you go yard. Don't know if I'm expecting that at this precise moment.
1 and 2.
Nice job looking at that slider well inside. Still behind 1-2 here in the count. This one into the glove of the pitcher. And the second time he's grounded into a double play today. Yeah, I think we got to stop watching Termar Johnson. He went from on a hot streak to just nothing going his way in a hurry. The pitching today has really been abysmal. Now, there's a couple of studs over there on the other side, including the number 1 pick in the 2024 MLB draft, who has gone yard in this one. But we're down 110, not really anything going our way. Not only for Termar Johnson, that's a good pitch to hit, good contact again, but has not been able to find the gaps. 0 for 8 over the last 2 after being 500 in his previous 10 games. But he has one more chance. Like it's been so often here, a runner on first and second. Oh, boy.
No ball. 1 strike.
Not the prettiest of swings there on that cutter. Might be trying a little too hard to get out of this cold stretch. There he gets a base hit. Could he also pick up an RBI? Yes, he will. There we go. An RBI base hit is a good way to end off our Termar Johnson watch here for the episode. Had a bit of a rough time, but a good finish is all you really need.
Oh, that's a ball. 3.
Falling 10-2 here as just nothing really went right for us in this game against Akron. But another RBI on the board for Termar Johnson. High hopes for him in the future. Still a bit of ways. He's only 20 years old, in that mid-60s overall. Probably still 2 to 3 years out if we're being optimistic. Maybe more like 3 to 4. It all depends on his development. But if he can keep the hot streak going he had before we were watching him, then he might be getting some call-ups sooner than expected. Let's shift gears and look at some pitching now. And I want to take a look at Jared Jones. Play for a game in a world where Paul Skenes did not exist. I think we'd still be very excited about Jared Jones being the lead pitcher into the future for this organization. He's got some serious heat and some really encouraging ratings, and I want to take a look at him play against one of our division rivals. I think it's very important early on in a franchise series to start establishing your division rivalries, and the Cubs not having the season they were hoping for. They're down kind of in the standings where we are close to, so we'll see who can come out victorious in this game. The series is tied 1-1 so far, so whoever wins the game wins the series, and an excellent strikeout there by Jones to end the first. Going against Suzuki here in the second. A chopper over to short is handled with relative ease. First four batters all retired here for Jones, off to a great start. That was a well-located pitch for Happ, one of the players I had in my athletics series a couple games ago. Michael Busch. Another inside pitch goes right back to second base, and 6 up. 6 down for Jared Jones early. Here's the scores of the games of the previous 2 matchups so far in this series. And what a swing there by Dansby Swanson. That pitch was not close to the zone at all. Nice job getting him to bite the cheese there. I mean, I want to look at the location of this here on this strikeout chart. I mean, that was just a crazy, crazy attempt. Pete Crow Armstrong gets all of that pitch there and puts the Cubs on the board for the first time in this game. Jared Jones had himself a really good game going, but that's certainly going to hurt it there. 104 miles an hour off the bat for Crow Armstrong. One of the promising young players there for Chicago that we'll likely have to be dealing with for a while on this rebuild here. Up next is John Birdie. The slider gets him swinging, and that's a good way to end off the inning there for Jared Jones, who overall is looking really nice for the Pirates right now. I'm liking what I'm seeing with his control. So many pitches right on the edge of the zone here for Jared Jones so far in this game. Kyle Tucker got the count to full. Not an easy man to retire by any means. Gets him with a fly ball there. Seiya Suzuki. Later on in this episode, the Cubs would have Suzuki on the trade block. We'll see if he is going to remain in the division much longer. Got some good hitting skills for Chicago. And looking at strike 3 is Ian Happ. Jones continues to rack up them Ks in this game. I'm continue to be impressed with his game. Top of the 5th now. Gets another strikeout. Michael Busch swinging. On the pitch, low and outside. Swanson will get a walk. The second walk allowed for Jones so far. Amaya, he will get on base. Gonzalez just unable to reel it in. Not the easiest play, and they will score it a base hit rather than an error, which makes sense. That one was left right over the middle for Crow Armstrong, who's already homered in this game. I don't know if I'd be leaving him any easy ones. They will not test O'Neal Cruz's arm here. I love having a center fielder with 99 arm strength. People are less likely to try him. Top of the order back up, and running it down is Brian Reynolds. I thought that was going to be a base hit for sure. Nice play. Back here, top of the 6th. Top of the lineup back up for Chicago. He's out of there. Mishandling it initially, but getting the throw inside. Tucker swinging at that pitch outside the zone and flies it to O'Neal Cruz. 2 up, 2 down here in the 6th. Suzuki back up. He got a ton of that pitch. She giving chase is McCutchen, but that is the second home run allowed of the game by Jared Jones. He's looked really, really good. He's just allowed a couple of home runs, and this start by him is honestly reminding me a lot of the Rockies series, where pitchers would have good games, but they just gave up home runs. That was kind of the saying that I used to describe a lot of the starts that we saw in that series. Very Rocky-esque, as the Cubs will win the series 5-3. We're going to stick with pitching here, but go back to the minor leagues. We've seen a AA game. We've seen a major league game. Let's go to AAA for our number 1 overall prospect in the farm system, Bubba Chandler. He'll start this game off with a grounder right back to him. Easy throw made. A four-seamer well outside, gets Devontae Brown down swinging. Let's see if he can keep up the strikeout pace that we've seen from Skenes and Jones so far. That's not an easy task. We've seen some good strikeout pitching very early on here in the franchise. Of course, that is the strength of this team from the get-go, is our pitching. And so I expect, I have a lot higher expectations both early on and kind of throughout the franchise from our pitching, than I did, say, in our Rockies franchise when we're pitching at Coors. I think we should have one of the top rotations in the league before too long, with the continued development of Jones and Skenes and Chandler eventually making it up there. And he is showing some good strikeout stuff right there. That's one of the best Blue Jays prospects they've got. Gets him down swinging. Just one hit allowed here so far. Into the third now. We got a full count pitch, and Loperfido down, another one of their top prospects, down swinging. And man, it looks just like we're watching Skenes or Jones out there with how many strikeouts we're getting from Chandler. He doesn't have quite the heat that those guys have. He's not going to really be threatening 100 miles an hour, but he throws that mid-90s fastball, and he's shown some good location on it here today. A little bit of a bloop single there to the 9-hitter. Puts 2 runners on base, and unlike in the MLB, they will be testing these outfield arms here. Never a bad idea to test a minor league outfield arm, in my opinion. Back top of the lineup, back up, and that will be a sacrifice fly in for the first run of the game. Here with 2 gone in the third. A stolen base puts him in scoring position, but a called strike 3, bottom of the zone. Gets him out of the third. What a pitch. Leo Jimenez will reach with a grounder just outside the outstretched arms with third base. Will stay at first for a single. 4-hitter up, and that's going to be a ball 4. That's the first walk of the game. Easily could have been called a strike there. Gets the strikeout on the next batter. Has him swinging at a pitch in the dirt, the 0-2, and back-to-back. Getting them swinging in the dirt. I mean, Chandler showing some awesome stuff in his rebuild debut. It's not his debut of the season. He's played a little bit, but I'm liking this game from Bubba Chandler a whole lot. The strikeouts continue here, top of the 5th. They're not showing me the total that he's gotten in this game, but it's certainly more than 1 per inning. The offense not helping him at all, and our AAA offense, to be fair, is not very good. So I don't think we're going to be getting much in the way of help in this game. That one was left over the middle. Luckily run down over in center field for the second out of the inning. But it's the top of the lineup back up for the Bison, and that's going to be a base hit for Devontae Brown. Pitch count is getting a little bit up there, and he's starting to allow some base hits here. Next up is Leo Jimenez. That's a chopper. It's going to get through the infield and lead to a second Buffalo run. And yeah, he's been playing awesome so far, but starting to show some cracks here in the 5th. That one was hit well into the outfield, giving chase and snagging it just in front of the warning track. That would be the end of the day here. 5 innings. Very good innings, but a lot of full counts. Got that pitch count up, and the Bisons would be defeated 3-0 in this one. I said in the last episode we're going to be going pretty quick through year 1. I think I said in the previous episode before that as well. We're going pretty quick through year 1. We're already in week 14 of 14 for the scouting period. I wanted to get to the draft quickly here in the franchise while I have a lot of momentum, get that first crop of rookies in, get my hand on the first free agent period. We won't go this fast through the following seasons, but yeah, we're going pretty quickly here through year one. And I am ready now to show you what I have been able to scout for this upcoming draft. We have a couple of really exciting players in discovery, but at the top of the draft remains the player that has been there since I scouted him in like the second or third week of this period here, and that is David Yan, the catcher, who is from South Korea. Switch hitter, 18 years old, looks to have high potential. He hits all of the attributes you want in a player, and I like that he's going to be able to offer, I think, early impact in the franchise. I don't think he's going to take too long from what I'm seeing here on his player card to develop in the minors. Not that, in year one of a franchise, you mind a player that will take a little bit longer to develop, but he has abilities, I think, to be a good long-term two-way asset, both the defense, which you really need at catcher, but also be a bat that you don't have to stick at the bottom of your lineup like so many people have to do with their catchers. He is the number one player in the class. He has been for the entire time, and if he's available at 6, I don't think there's a question at all whether David Yan is the player or not. So let's go ahead and talk about probably the next best player that was not a discovery player, and that's Ken Curry. I think if we have David Yan off the board and he is on the board, this is a player I'm very much interested in. Does not offer a power profile at all, but he's a very safe guy that's going to be in the 60s overall with good B potential. I'm projecting like mid 60s with mid B potential here. That's a solid pick. It's not going to be a cornerstone of your franchise or anything, but the day one skill set I like a lot. Great contact, great plate skills, great fielding. I think he'd be an asset for the team should he get there, but he's not the number 2 player on my board. He is in my top 5. The number 2 player is a discovery guy, and that is Buford Kingman, ranked 3rd for the Pirates on their board, number 2 on my personal one. And this is a guy, 22 years old, yes, but he's rocking that same mustache that we have with David Yan. And another guy that just looks really good on both sides. Great defender with a strong arm, as well as some good contact and plate skills, particularly that contact versus left is looking really, really nice. Very unlikely to get A potential with this guy, but high B potential with high 60s, maybe low 70s overall to start is right where you want a 22-year-old guy in the draft to be. I like him more with his secondary position here at right field. I think that strong arm will help out in right field, and I look for a little bit more power than a guy who's going to start in, the 40s and the low 50s in his power with Kingman. But if we can get him, move him over to the right field, I think that would be an excellent play. I'm looking at him, kind of circling him in with that number 46 pick in the class. And he was previewed just a little bit when I talked about Ken Curry here, but Albert Sweeney is my second best discovery player. He's the second best of 3 that I think are worth talking about hitters that we've discovered for this class. Only a 9 overall gap here for Albert Sweeney, so I'm probably not looking at him until that pick in the 60s, because he's likely to end up, I'm going to guess maybe a 70, 71 overall with 81 or 82 potential here would be my projection for him. Once again, though, a guy that isn't a one-way player. He's going to have some early abilities, both on offense and defense. What you like about him is that he's somebody that will not be long in the minors. If he's going to start in the 70s like I project he will. And that does have starting upside. I don't think he'll have the all-star upside that I'm probably looking for with those 2 top 50 picks, but does have starter upside in the future. And with a team that doesn't have the biggest budget here in Pittsburgh, we're not going to want everybody on the team to have 95 potential, because we're not going to be able to pay everybody that has that kind of upside. And so somebody that could potentially down the line be a lower cost starter that still offers two-way ability. I like Albert Sweeney, penciling him more in that pick in the 60s. Back towards players that were not discovered. Let's go ahead and talk about Julio Macias here. A lefty who has just a load of potential. He is ranked by MLB. We did not discover this player, but he's another guy alongside Buford at that first base spot that I have circled for that number 46 pick in the class. I think he's somebody that, should he make it there, offers a ton of upside. He's more of the project guy, but again, we're in year one of a rebuild here that I project to take at least 5 years, if not longer, like it did for me last year to complete. And so I think we can give this guy time to develop and make an impact on the team. And once he does develop, he's going to have loads of upside. He has a good power profile off the bat, solid speed. The fielding and arm accuracy certainly are going to have to come a long way, as is his vision and contact versus lefties. So he's not a perfect player by any means. That's what you're going to get when you're getting a guy that's likely going to be like 61 overall somewhere. That's probably where I project him to be. So more of the long-term play, but you're getting a ton of potential with Macias. And in a draft that has, I think, more ready now players with more B potential, this is a guy that you have a good shot at getting A potential with. So I like a Julio Macias a lot in this class. And then the last guy I want to talk about for hitters is Corey Steiner here, another switch hitter who looks to be able to hit for very good contact versus righties, has some speed about him as well. Not probably going to be too much of a defender, and not going to have a ton of upside potential-wise. Not really going to be a power hitter either, but he's going to have a certain skill set that I think could be valuable a little bit later on here in the class. Probably wouldn't look for him until maybe that pick in the 80s, unless things go wrong and my hitters are gone. I might take him in the 60s. Let's take a look at the pitchers now and some of my favorites here across the board. Adrian Mendoza-Burks is currently our number 1 rated pitcher in the class. Number 2 overall, was a discovery player for us. And so if he's somebody that can slip through the first round and is available at 46 and 68, I imagine one of those picks will go to him, even though I am prioritizing hitters in this class. If you can get the number 2 player in the class outside of the first round, you just got to bite, no matter how good the hitters may seem. At some point, it's worth it. If the players that I really want at 46 aren't there, he'll be on the table for sure. Willie Mota here is certainly interesting. I'm not going to take him at 6, but guaranteed A potential is hard to pass up, especially with a player that's projected to be kind of in that mid-60s area. He's not going to be like a low 50s guy that takes forever. He is a little bit older for sure, so he's not a perfect prospect, but I'd absolutely think about taking that pitcher for sure. Next up on the list is Jared Daly here. He's a lefty, really low velocity, unfortunately, and he is injured. So would have been a fun lefty pitcher for us. Of course, it wouldn't have thrown hard at all, but that injury, I think, makes him a lot bigger of a risk than I would hope. We have Davian McGrath here, who is another player with guaranteed A potential here, 22 years old, 6'4", 231 pounds, out of Georgia. 4 picks mix on him, although 2 of them are fastballs, so do what you will with that. But high walks per 9 is pretty good with him. So if you want a potential pitcher to add to the squad, he's your man. We have another discovery pitcher here from Germany, and he is a lefty. And I'm going to be giving priority, like tiebreaker priority, to lefties, because that's what I think we lack a little bit here in the organization. Not a strikeout pitcher at all. And so if that's what you're looking for, look somewhere else. But Tommy Sosea is certainly somebody that I'm going to have on my board when it comes to pitchers pretty highly. Lewis Cornell, another lefty here who I find pretty interesting, has good stamina, has good velocity. He's going to get some pretty good velo on that four-seamer. Really low hits per 9 is unfortunate, but if he's available a little bit later on in the class, I certainly wouldn't mind taking a look at a Lewis Cornell. Carl Warmack, as we continue our run here through the discovery pitchers. Low walks per 9, you never love that, but he looks like he's going to get solid velocity on that fastball and pretty well-rounded skill set. Other than his walks, his stamina will be low, so this is probably a guy you look to draft and then convert to a bullpen arm as a long reliever down the road, but I like me a Carl Warmack. And then a guy who was not discovery but another lefty on the board here with guaranteed at least 88 potential here. He's ranked MLB 115, so if we wanted to take it, we probably got to select him with that pick in the 80s, because our next pick is just a little bit after this pick, I think, or maybe it's right before it. But to be safe, you certainly want to take him in the 80s if he's there. Another low strikeouts pitcher. I'm probably okay with that if we can get a guy that has all this potential here in a pick, which would be our 4th pick in the class. And that's it for the guys that I find interesting in this upcoming draft class. There was no shortage for sure. I think we have plenty of options for us at all picks. I think at the very least, our first 4 picks will all come from guys I mentioned here in this episode. I even think there's a chance the round 4 and maybe even round 5 picks come from these players, especially I'm hoping that 1 or 2 of those pitchers that we mentioned slip through the cracks for like the 4th and the 5th, and that we can use all 4 of our first 4 picks on hitters, except for maybe Adrian Mendoza Burks. I mean, I would love that. If we can get 3 or maybe even 4 hitters in this class, I think that would be a whole lot of fun. But the draft is coming up next episode, and I'm very excited to see who we add to the team in our first amateur draft. All right, let's go ahead and check in on what our players are doing in the organization stats-wise. We are about halfway through the season now, and so we're at the point where we've gotten a good enough sample size where I think I can start to make some decisions in terms of lineup management and pitching rotation management, etc. Let's start here with the Major League squad. Let's go through some of our best and worst performers here. Let's sort by OPS. I feel like that's a good metric to use here. And with OPS, Spencer Horwitz is our best player so far this year. He's getting some pretty solid upgrades across the board. Age 27, I mean, his stats against righties look pretty good. I mean, 85 contact and 74 power. The plate skills are in a really decent spot as well. I think first base is a spot where I think we can keep Horwitz there if he can continue to play like this and just maybe find somebody to play whenever we face against a lefty. His stats are obviously not nearly as good against lefties, but those righty stats, I'm liking them quite a bit here. Peguero is only been a part-time player for us, hasn't been playing the whole season, but he's been playing really well, and I think it's time that I expand his role. He's got just under 900 on his OPS. He's 24 years old. I think it's time to see if this guy can handle some more work. I think he's been playing for us against lefties, but maybe we try and trot him out there against righties to see if he can continue playing well. Obviously, the stats aren't going to be the same. He has better power against righties, which is noteworthy at least. He also has really solid clutch, which I like to have in my lineups as well. So I think I got to find a way to get Peguero more at-bats. He has, a little bit under half of what kind of our full-time starters have. And if you go to like an O'Neal Cruz, he has well under half. And so I think I'd like that to change. Joey Bart is the next man up here for us, and he unfortunately is losing some power. 9 homers so far, which I mean is on pace to be his best season ever in that area. But the OPS isn't as good as it was last year. I still think he's been a pretty solid catcher for us. We do have a couple of younger options, not that he's old by any means, and so he's playing well enough where I'm not going to force him out of the position, but I certainly think he isn't at the same count not playing so well that you don't want to give guys like Henry Davis and Andy Rodriguez a chance at bigger roles, that saying that they are a few years younger, and with Bart being in arbitration, he's going to cost a decent chunk more than those 2 youngsters. Jack Sawinski here has good power against righties. Another part-time player for us so far this year, just 71 at-bats. Over 700 OPS. He hasn't been bad by any means. I think I'd like to get him involved a little bit more. I think that 76 power versus righties certainly intrigues me. Obviously, the contact is low, but really good discipline as well that I think could help him. So I think now that we've got a good enough milestone, if there's somebody really struggling in the lineup, in the outfield. I think adding Sawinski into the lineup could be a good way to go. O'Neal Cruz, oh man, that is not looking good. He is not having a good year against lefties. -9 total between contact and power against lefties. That is brutal. His average is down to 230. He's just over that 700 mark. If you can't tell, I use OPS quite a bit to make my judgments on how well a player is performing hitting wise. 10 homers on the year, so power wise he's kind of similar to what he's been in the past, I guess. Definitely still under pace wise from last year because he's over halfway at bats wise, but still under the home run, but not terribly far behind. I hope that he can turn some of this around by the time the season ends, because that's a lot of regression to his ratings that I wasn't hoping to see. His overall has not increased at all so far this season. He started at an 83 and he continues to be there, all because that contact versus and power versus left is going so poorly for him this year. Let's talk about Tommy Pham, who has been our DH for this season, and he's been okay. Better than last year, worse than the year before that. He's an older player and he's experiencing some heavy regression. Don't think he's going to be back with us next year, so we'll see what happens with this player. I mean, he's been traded a lot if you look at all these totals, but certainly somebody that I think could be upgraded over, and maybe this is a Sawinski spot, or maybe this is a Peguero spot. A couple guys that I'm interested in getting more PT here. Nick Gonzalez currently on a cold streak, unfortunately. Here's a guy who has his OPS dropping a little bit. He's one of the younger players on the MLB squad, so hoping he can get better as time goes along. He's about to break his personal home run record, which would be nice to see, but I mean, we're not that far down the list from the top. I mean, we're a decent bit, but we're already talking about guys below 700 OPS. This has not been a good offense so far this year. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, a little bit more of a defender, but he does have some good ratings you like vision and clutch here. Unfortunately, his hitting isn't really improving at all in his age 29 season. His average is dropped down to his worst of his career so far, which is really unfortunate. OPS has honestly kind of been at this spot for him in his career. So I think this is just what you're getting. You're getting a very versatile position player here who can play a ton of spots, but maybe isn't the best offensive player and somebody that could be upgraded on. Brian Reynolds just is not having the year that I was hoping he would have for us. I was hoping he'd be able to build a bit of a trade market, and it's just not going to happen this year. I think we got to just count this as a down year. Hopefully he bounces back next year. And heck, hopefully he bounces back as this year goes along, but hitting just over 200 this year, and by far his worst OPS. I mean, other than 2020 was also really bad, but he's been a better player than he's been this year in other years in his career. And so thought about maybe adding him to the trading block this year. I think this is a hold situation on Brian Reynolds, and we just hope that he can get better, hopefully reverse some of this contact regression he's experienced so far this season. Let's talk about Hayes now. Talked about earlier how I really need him to develop as an offensive player. So far, he's hitting for an average of 235. His OPS is up over last year, where he was sub 600 last year, which is rough to see. Still not where I want it, but in about 90 less at bats, he has surpassed home runs. So that's something to be proud of, I suppose. But need continued development here. Especially, I was hoping for better development against righties. I mean, the power's there, +4 power. We'll take that all day. But no development against his contact versus righties so far this season is disappointing. Andrew McCutchen, he's been playing for us in right field. His power versus righties is going up. Has 9 homers so far, but he is hitting 186. That is brutal. And sub 600 OPS. I think this is probably the Sawinski spot right here. I know McCutchen has a ton of history with the Pirates in his career from all the way back to 2009. That is a long time ago. But I think his era might be over. He's a free agent after this year. I think we're gonna let him hit free agency if he's playing this poorly. We have some more part-time players that are just really performing poorly here. Still getting development across the board from Endy Rodriguez, but I was hoping he'd play in his limited at-bats to a point where he could be challenging for that starting catcher role. Just hasn't quite been the case for Endy so far this season. So I think biggest and most pleasant surprises are probably Peguero and Horwitz here. Got to find ways to get Peguero more involved. Probably got to put Horwitz in a better spot in our lineup. And then probably going to replace McCutchen for Sawinski here. Now, let's go ahead and talk about pitchers. We spend a lot of time talking about the hitters. Time to talk about the pitchers. And we're going to start with the lowlights so I can end on a positive note here. Joey Wentz has been our worst pitcher. He's a 57 overall. So I honestly can't really blame the guy. Yohan Oviedo has been a really disappointing for us. He is allowing a lot of home runs. -5 home runs per 9 is pretty crazy. He has already allowed 25 home runs on the season. That's crazy. That is 2.5 home runs per 9. That is not at all where you want to be. His strikeouts are down. His walks are up. His home runs are up a ton. This is not a good year for Yohan Oviedo. And this is a year where he has his arbitration coming up after this year. That becomes a decision. That becomes a decision for sure. I mean, we could probably buy cheap on his arbitration if he continues to play this bad, but still a young player. Not the year you want from one of your 5 starters for sure. Here's our lone lefty starter. Has a 5.32 ERA and just under a 1.4 WHIP. Does have a positive WAR. He's limited in home runs at a decent amount. He's limited walks a decent amount. He's not a strikeout pitcher, but there you have it. Carmen Mlazinski, 4.68 ERA. He's pitched 50 innings, which is what he's pitched previously. Not having quite the year as he was last year in his 50 innings, though. So still a young player at 26. Hopefully he can continue to rebuild some value, though. He does have that low walks per 9, which is sometimes hard to sim well with. Then you have Jared Jones. Pretty disappointing year for Jared Jones here. His whip is up a pretty significant amount. The ERA isn't up a whole ton, but I was hoping for, maybe high 3s, low 4s ERA with a whip in kind of the 1-2s this year. Still has time to rebuild that value. Just is not striking out players nearly as well as he was last season. The strikeout is a 5.78. I feel like the game did him a little bit dirty with his strikeouts per 9 rating. I think it should have been a bit higher than it is, but it is what it is. I'm not going to obviously change it. So need to see him start striking some more people out. David Bednar, he has been a setup man for us, not the closer, for the Pirates this season. It's been a better season than last year, but not as good as kind of seasons past. So looking at a guy who might be out of his prime already at 30 years old. He just hasn't been able to hit the caliber he was for this 3-season stretch that was honestly really good. He's a guy gonna go into his last arbitration. We probably pick that up, give him one more year to try to rebuild value. Caleb Ferguson has been one of our better relievers here. Lefty, up to a 70 overall now. Sub-4 ERA, 1.12 WHIP is really nice. If you look here, does a really nice job avoiding home runs and walks. Strikeouts are okay, not great. You want that, I think, to be more around 8 or 9 if you're looking for a strikeout pitcher, but he's doing good in other areas. We've been getting a pretty good season here out of Mitch Keller with a 3.23 ERA. That would be his best mark since 2020, which is by far his best season. And the whip at 1.21 would be his best of his career. If we look at how he's winning, he's limiting walks, I think, is his strongest point. He's also decent job at limiting home runs. So that's kind of what we're seeing from our pitchers. Not seeing a ton of high strikeout guys, and his K per 9 is his lowest attribute, so that makes a lot of sense with Mitch. I think he's having a really good year, and I'm happy to have him. I feel like that 3 spot is just a really good spot for him. Our best reliever on the squad, who has gotten his potential up to a B, our lone B potential reliever, is Colin Holderman. 2.76 ERA, best whip since 2022. If you look at how he is winning, he has a higher strikeout per 9 than most of the guys we've been watching, but that 0.61 home runs per 9 is also really, really solid. That's why he has a +3 in that area. But a lot of guys that have like this 99 velocity rating on this Pirates squad, I respect it. And then you have Paul Skenes having another really strong year this year. 118 innings pitched, almost up to a strikeout per inning here. He's been pretty far below it for a lot of the season. I've checked in a couple of times off camera on Skenes and others, and at 104 whip is in a really good spot, 2.67 ERA. He continues to just be a really, really good pitcher. If you look at where he wins, he is our best strikeout guy, which is no surprise. And like the other pitchers, he's also doing a pretty solid job at limiting home runs and walks for us this season. Our closer on the squad is having the best season ERA-wise on the squad. He also has a sub-1 whip. He has, for us, 23 saves to 5 blown saves. And I think it's been a pretty fair selection of him as the closer over a guy like Bednar for us this season. Is not the kind of strikeout pitcher that you might expect a closer to be, but look at that. 1.29 walks per 9 is really, really good, and which is why he's getting a +4 in that area. Dennis Santana having a really nice year, and that's going to do it for the Major League squad stats. Went through a lot of them, but it's the first time we've done it in the franchise, and we need to see who's performing for us and who is not. But it's not just the Major League guys that I'm interested in. Let's go ahead and take a look at our top prospects now, starting with Bubba Chandler. He's getting some good progression across the board, and he's having a really solid year at AAA. 3.14 ERA, 1.35 whip. He has 108 strikeouts in 103 innings, so striking out at a really, really respectable rate. We saw obviously some clips from him earlier on here in the episode, and he was getting some really nice strikeouts there at 2.8 pitching WAR. I don't think Bubba Chandler's all that far away from making his MLB debut. I think he's definitely going to be the next prospect to do so in the series. Thomas Harrington, another B potential pitcher for us, losing some hits per 9, unfortunately. Just not having quite the same caliber of year. Still a positive WAR kind of player, but I think he could still use some development before we think about bringing him up, particularly in that walks per 9 area. You have Hunter Barco here. Checking in on him. He's getting some nice progression across the board, and he is having a year down in AA. 1.79 ERA, 1.19 whip. This is a guy that we're going to have to watch pitch at some point in the near future. Not this episode. Got too much planned already, but there you have it. Next up, our final B potential player is going to be Termar Johnson, who is unfortunately in the middle of a cold streak right now, getting some nice development to his contact, +4 on both sides. At the AA level this year, 286 average, 424 slugging, and 788 OPS. Those are very, very respectable numbers, and a 2.9 wins above replacement. 8 homers on the year. He's seeing some solid development. I think he's close to going up to AAA for us. Would love to see those plate skills maybe get into the 50s all around by the end of the year. I think that could be awesome. I don't know if he'll quite get there. I think he might get close. But Termar Johnson is having some solid development for us. And then even though he's only C potential, let's take a look at how Connor Griffin's doing. Once again, developing more in that contact area, which is where we are training him. And he's currently an A-ball. We got to get him playing AA. I don't know why I allowed that to happen. Usually people over 60 that I like I don't leave an A. I'd probably gloss over him because of the C potential on accident, but he should start getting some AA action here in the near future. We will demote this guy down to Class A and make Connor Williams their AA shortstop. That's all I've got, though, for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Went through a lot of player card watching, whether through the draft or free agency, but when you simulate a lot in an episode, that's kind of what it's going to end up looking like. But hopefully you liked some of the more player-centric content at the top of the episode, and I hope you are very excited for the upcoming draft. I think there's a chance it could be really, really good one for our opening act here with the Pittsburgh Pirates. If you are excited for the draft, leave a like here on the video, as the more likes it gets, the sooner that is likely to come out. And that's all I've got for the episode. We'll be back soon with more. I'll see you then. Go Pirates.